Well, it's that time of the week again where Eddie Howe has been speaking to the media ahead of Sunday's massive clash at St James's Park against Liverpool, of course, with a kick-off of 4:30. You can hear full 90-minute play-by-play commentary right here on the Toon Review with Billy and Alex. They start at 4 o'clock with full build-up to the match as well. Now, in today's show, Eddie talks about Lewis Hall, Alexander Isak, Joe Willock's latest on his injury. We also have news of a possible departure with Ryan Fraser, looking like he's heading towards the South Coast, and we're linked to another defender. Is there time in the window to bring this guy in? Let's dive in to Friday's Daily News. Hi everybody, I'm Paul and welcome back to the Toon Review YouTube channel, where today it is of course Friday's Daily News. Before we do get cracking, as usual, if you do enjoy today's show, guys, do give it the thumbs up. Keep us up there in the search results for other people like yourselves to find the channel. Hopefully get subscribed and hit that 23,000 mark sooner rather than later. If you are new to the channel, of course, and you do enjoy it, please do hit the subscribe button. It is free, completely free to do so. And also don't forget to hit that notification bell, which will let you know when we go live or we upload any future videos. Now, of course, Eddie Howe will start with the press conference. Now, he spoke to the media, of course, Sunday's massive game against Liverpool, who we kind of owe one from last season, don't we? I mean, the game at Anfield, we remember Isak scoring a brilliant goal, scoring a superb second goal, and it was ruled out wrongly in the end for offside. So we do owe them. Of course, they beat us at St James's Park the week before the Carabao Cup final. Nick Pope sending off and everything like that. But that's water under the bridge now. This is a new season and a new opportunity for Newcastle to get one over their Scouse rivals. Now, Eddie Howe started off saying last year we were disappointed with the 2 defeats against Liverpool. The one at Anfield was a difficult night and the home game was painful in a very different way. They're very, very good at what they've been historically good at for 4 or 5 years. But they are building a new team with slightly different characteristics in midfield. We know this is another really good test for us following on from Man City and against Aston Villa. Now, we did speak on, of course, the preview show last night. The midfield is going to be a very important part of the game tomorrow, but are Liverpool as strong in midfield as they have been over the years? Of course, they've lost Henderson, etc. Fabinho's gone. So there's an opportunity here for Newcastle to possibly just get into Liverpool very early doors in the midfield. Of course, it depends who we go with as well. Tonali, Bruno, Joe Linton. Does he start Anderson? Does Longstaff come in? These are headaches that Eddie Howe wanted to have, and of course he's got, and he will thrive on this, trying to pick the right side to unlock Liverpool. But he does speak there about the midfield, which I think is very interesting, because Liverpool are rebuilding. Of course, Alexis McAllister's in there now. He got his red card overturned last week, so he will be available for the game. So I think it's very important for Eddie that we get out there and we start really well. But obviously he knows that Liverpool are slightly different to last season. They do have a very, very good attacking lineup. Of course, all these rumours about Mo Salah, from what I've gathered this morning, Liverpool have completely blanked it. It's not happening, and Mo Salah is going to continue to be a Liverpool football player for this season. Only time will tell if that changes within the next few days before the end of the window, of course. But will he play? Has his head been turned, etc.? Will he play on Sunday? Now, we moved on to Lewis Hall as well, of course, who, of course, we just brought in from Chelsea on loan with the obligation to buy at the end of the season. He said he played against us a couple of times last year and he impressed me for someone so young to come into those situations and perform the way he did. He caught my eye immediately. I really liked his attitude, his physical and technical attributes, so I think he's going to be a good signing for us. Now, again, Eddie's given nothing away as to whether he's going to start Lewis Hall at left-back. I've seen a lot of fans on social media, etc., commenting on this and saying, you know, Lewis Hall deserves his opportunity. He's a very, very good player. That's why we've bought him. So we've got that overlapping full-back now. Of course, he can use 2 feet. We saw that against Newcastle various times last season where he would cut inside and then spray a beautiful diagonal pass across to the side of the pitch with his opposite foot. So he can use both feet, which I think is a hell of an attribute to have for a left back, and certainly somebody of his age. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Lewis Hall can do at the club, because doing the commentary on the games last season, he caught certainly mine and Billy's eye very, very quickly, and was part of the conversation when we did the match reviews, how good he was. To finally get him in at Newcastle is massive. But does he leave Dan Burn out? That's the question. I don't think he will. I think Dan Burn's done very well at the start of this season. There's no reason why he should be dropped in any particular way. We defended well at City last week. Villa was fine. There's no reason, I think, to change that back four. So I think he'll continue that. Hall will probably be on the bench, which he will probably get an opportunity as well. Now, he moved on to Joe Linton, of course, who is or has been an injury doubt, certainly at the start of the week. Eddie went on to say, Joe is fine. We didn't see him in the early part of the week, but he trained in the latter part, so fingers crossed he's okay. So again, as usual with Eddie Howe, he's not giving anything away to the fitness of Joe Linton because, he wants to hide everything he possibly can from Jurgen Klopp, so Jurgen Klopp doesn't know who to prepare for in midfield. Now, this obviously is still a doubt going into tomorrow. He hopes he's okay, but it may well be that he puts Joe Linton on the bench and brings somebody else in. Now, who is that somebody else? Will it be Anderson, who people are crying out for? I'd love to see Elliott given a chance. I think he's looked brilliant in pre-season and will give us a different dimension to what Joe Linton does. So I think if Joe's any sort of injury doubt, I think he won't start him. He'll put him on the bench if he's still not 100% sure that he's going to be fit. So for me, Anderson's got to be ahead of Sean Longstaff for tomorrow. I really do think that. I mean, Sean came on last week against Man City, didn't particularly do very well. And, Anderson will be chomping at the bit to get into this side. He really will, especially after having such a wonderful pre-season. I think his time is now. If Joe Linton's not fit, I would start Anderson. But let me know in the comments, would you start Anderson or Longstaff tomorrow? Do you think it's time that Anderson was given this chance to step into Joe Linton's shoes if Joe Linton isn't fit? Let me know down below. Now, he moved on to Alexander Isak, and Isak, who he did have a quiet game last week, of course, as we know, but we didn't really offer that much going forward. He said on Isak, I would always say there's more room for improvement for any player, but Alex has shown his unique qualities and ability here consistently. He had a really good goal tally last season for the minutes he played, and I would hope that continues. His all-round game has improved. I think we've seen that as supporters, how good his game is now, what a wonderful player he is on the ball. And that's what I want to see. We didn't see it last week against Man City for various different reasons. But look, that game is now gone. And it's very important that we move on and we now see the true capabilities of a Newcastle United side. We'll see where we're at against Liverpool on Sunday. They will see where they're at against us as well because they're rebuilding their side. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game. But I think it's one of those games that Alexander Isak can absolutely thrive in. He can really, really perform. Now, for me, I think he starts ahead of Callum again in the striker's position. I think we've got enough depth now on either side. So if needs be further on in the game, he could play them together if we need to get a goal or two or back into the game. But for now, I think he's going to stick with Alexander Isak. And hopefully he'll see a lot more of the ball than he did against Manchester City. Now, on Joe Willock, of course, who hasn't been seen at all this season because of that horrible hamstring injury he suffered at the back end of last season. Eddie said he's making good progress. This is probably the strongest he's looked in terms of this hamstring. He had it rescanned a couple of days ago and the report back was very good, no problems. I think he had a bit of a fatigue in his hamstring, but he's done really well. He'll be training with us around the international break and he's a massive player. So again, there's not going to be no Joe Willock featured. And as Eddie said there, it's probably not going to be before the international break. They're not going to rush him back. And certainly there's no reason to rush him back because why? We've got that depth in midfield now where, we can make sure that Joe Willock comes back fully fit. What we don't want is, of course, Joe Willock coming back, playing really well for around 30, 40 minutes and then suddenly goes down with the same hamstring problem. But it's good that he's had the scan. It's good that, the scan's clear. Maybe a bit of fatigue in the hamstring, which is understandable after the injury that he suffered, but he's ready. He'll be ready to go after the international break by the sound of things, which is another massive plus point for us. Joe Willock has been a fantastic player. He's an engine in midfield. He can play out on the left as well. So we've got really opportunity to have a massive big squad going into the start of the Champions League, of course, which is where we need it. And Joe's going to come back at exactly the right time, which is incredible news for us. It really is. It's a positive for Joe Willock now rather than a negative. Now then, the forgotten man at Newcastle United, of course, midfielder Ryan Fraser. It looks like he is finally departing St James's Park and heading down to the south coast to join Southampton on a year's loan deal. Obviously, we don't know the ins and outs of wages. Are Southampton covering the whole wages? Are they just covering part wages? We don't know that at the moment. All we do know is that Fraser is going out the door, and I think this can only be a plus point. Of course, Eddie banished him to the under-23s probably mainly because of his attitude. He didn't really say anything in press conferences other than he was disappointed for Ryan. But Eddie's not going to come out in public and slate his players. So, we can speculate all we want, but we know that he was a bit of a bad egg. He was when he came to the club, of course. He had a history of it, and it turns out it's happened at Newcastle United as well. Never really got his career going at Newcastle United. I think he had the ability, without a shadow of a doubt. He's a very, very talented footballer, but for some reason, his head just wasn't in the right place. And that's not the type of player that Eddie Howe wants around the Newcastle dressing room or the Newcastle squad. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm not going to slate Ryan Fraser because he went to the under-23s and the under-23 manager was delighted with him. Said he was helping the kids. He was doing all he could. He was a real positive member to have in the under-23s dressing room, giving advice, etc. So well done to Ryan Fraser on that. But I kind of think he's blown his career at Newcastle. He could have been it could have been very, very different for him. Very good left foot, great crosser of the ball. But as I say, it just never really happened for him. And Eddie must be disappointed because he's worked with Ryan before. He's seen this happen again. And, Fraser this time is going out the door. But he's heading back to the South Coast. Of course, he was at Bournemouth for quite a while. And now he's going down to Southampton on a year's deal. So we wish him the best of luck. But I think it's a very, very good plus point for Newcastle United that they're finally getting Ryan Fraser out of the door and to another football club. Now, finally, you may find this one a little bit strange, but are Newcastle United finished in the transfer market? We're not sure, to be honest. I mean, let's face it, there was the rumours of the Napoli winger coming in yesterday, and now reports from Portugal claim that Newcastle United are keeping a very, very close eye on Benfica's Antonio Silva. Now, this has been across a couple of sources. The Chronicle are also reporting it as well, saying that they've been linked for a move with Benfica defender Antonio Silva. Everybody thought that Newcastle were done in the transfer window. It still may be the case, guys, because these are only reports and they're coming out of Portugal where obviously the player is. However, with the arrival of Lewis Hall, we still kind of probably need a centre-back, don't we, just to cover. So the 19-year-old from Benfica is certainly on Newcastle's list. However, the price may put a lot of you off, guys, because he's been quoted at £100 million. This is how good he is. I mean, he's a wonderful defender and he's got such a massive career ahead of him. But this is typical Newcastle, isn't it? The way they look at the signings. They've brought some great youngsters to the club, not just for the academy, but of course for the first team. In sort of Livramento, you look at, still very young. Lewis Hall, still very young. Gordon's still a young player. So when you look at the transfers that they do bring into the club, Newcastle United very much look to youngsters as well. Of course, they've got the experience there, which you need that blend of youth and experience, don't you? And they've got the experience, and they're looking at a lot of youth now. But the 100 million, I mean, there's no way we're going to be able to pay that in this transfer window simply because of FFP. It's impossible. Now, it says there in the report that given the fair play rules, Newcastle are ruled out at this stage, the FIFA fair play. So the FFP is certainly stifling Newcastle at the minute. It's a player that we really, really do want to bring in. However, could they work out another way of doing it? Could they go down the route of another loan deal? Would Benfica be open to that? I'm not so sure. But these are all options that are open to Newcastle United. It's getting, of course, very, very late in the transfer window. As I say, a lot of fans still think we need that cover at centre-back on the right side. But then again, you look at Eddie Howe, he's got a lot of faith in Jamal Lascelles. He's got a lot of faith in him to come in and do a job when needed. So I think Lascelles will get plenty of football this season, of course, certainly in the cup games, etc. But what a player Antonio Silva would be. But I think this link and the reports coming from Portugal, they're a little far out, guys, I have to say. I don't see a player of his ilk coming into the club just yet, unfortunately. However, that is it for the Daily News. As usual, let me know in the comments below what you think of all the stories about what Eddie Howe had to say. Are you glad to see the back of Ryan Fraser? Is Antonio Silva possibly for next year and not this year? Let me know in the comments. I really do like reading all your opinions on the club. Thank you very much for watching. As I said at the start, if you have enjoyed it, please do hit that thumbs up button. Keep us up there in the search results on YouTube. Of course, if you're new to the channel and you like what you've seen, please do hit the subscribe subscribe button, free to do so, and that notification bell, which will let you know when we go live or upload any future videos. You can become a member of the Toon Review as well, guys, if you hit that join button just underneath the video itself. Great members prizes coming up throughout the month as well. Do check our Patreon out as well, guys, where you can get extra podcasts from us away from the camera, talking about the Champions League and former players, former teams, picking our best teams from the teens and the 90s and things like that. So great podcasts on there. The link is in the description, so go and check that out. Also, please keep voting for us in the Football Content Awards 2023. That link is also in the description. Please go and vote for us as many times as you want to try and get us to the finals. We made it there last year, and with your help, we can do it again this. So thank you in advance for doing that as well. We'll be back tonight at 7 o'clock. If you're watching this on the Friday, we have a Champions League special tonight where we're going to look at putting the different teams into different tiers as importance of playing them and how much the fans want to take on certain teams. So it's going to be a very, very good show tonight. So join us at 7 o'clock, of course, ahead of the Champions League draw next week. But in the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Take care.